show. Today is October 5th, 2022. Let me start by saying that I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This information is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Today we'll be talking about stock symbol MMTLP, which is soon to become a company that's spun out called Bridge Hydrocarbons. Metamaterials has filed an S1 registration statement, and they recently filed an amendment number 2 to that. So this is what this video is about. For those who are unaware, brief overview of what all of this stuff is. There once was a company called Torchlight Energy that discovered something like 3.2 billion barrels of oil in the ground in Texas. They have a 49% revenue interest. It's near El Paso. There's a refinery there. There's some pipelines that head into El Paso that's close by as well too. This is on quote-unquote private land in Texas, so you don't need a federal lease to it. You just buy it and then drill there. I mean, that's basically what you do. Anyway, they were spinning out these oil and gas assets after their merger, after Torchlight Energy merged with Metamaterials, and it's currently trading under the stock symbol MMTLP. So that's what this is about. There were a bunch of shorts that were trapped there because they did not exit their short position in time, and they've been wanting to get out for a while. For those who want the in-depth details of exactly what's going on, I've got 2 videos about that. It's Thoughts on Oil Part 2. Talks about Torchlight, Metamaterials, and MMTLP. Those are the stock symbols that we're trading. And I've also got Thoughts on Oil Part 3, which talks about what happens after MMTLP came into existence and then the possible spin-out. At that time, it was a possible spin-out to Bridge Hydrocarbons. Now it looks like it is a definite spin-out to Bridge Hydrocarbons. But anyway, those 2 videos will go into in-depth and give you the details. They're about 40 minutes and 35 minutes each. So there's quite a lot of info there. If you care mostly about what's going on with the S1 filings, I've got 2 videos on the S1s and 1 video on the S1A that was filed, and this video is going to talk about the S1A amendment number 2. So my last 2 videos, which actually came by pretty recently, talks about the fact that they've been doing some drilling there. They found four more new wells. Looks like they're going to be drilling 4 new wells. And it talks about a gas pipeline that's close by to one of the new new wells, and also there's an oil pipeline that's about 10 miles away from one of those new wells that's being drilled. Okay. Anyway, so let's get back to the S1A, which is what's going on. George Palikaras, CEO of Metamaterials, made this tweet today. He said, "Happy to report that our team has been working on the SEC feedback and the S1 has been updated and submitted today. Please check for details in the published filings." And this is an animated GIF that he included with his tweet. And if it's not clear what's going on with this animated tweet, what we see is actually the tip of an iceberg here in the ocean. And what's beneath it is about 10 times as much as what we see, maybe 20, who knows. So there's a lot going on there that's under the surface. It's just hidden under the surface. That's my take on it. Anyway, this is the amendment number 2 that has been filed, and it has been filed today at the time of this video. There are 2 other filings to make 3 filings total. There's the original S1, the S1A, which is First Amendment, and the S1A2, which is the one we're talking about now. I got I got a communication from my last video from Slick Roads. So thank you, Slick Roads, for this communication. He actually said that he's got a diff checker where he does a difference between the S1 Amendment 2 and the S1. So I said, thanks for the link. So we're going to use his diff. So thank you, Slick Roads, for your feedback. That is very much appreciated. Again, thanks to everyone for all their feedback. I'm just the guy making the videos for you guys, but a lot of you guys are actually providing all this input. So I really appreciate that. So this is what a diff looks like. This is called a Unix diff. So this is in textual format mostly, and where it's important, I will actually stray from the text. So on the left, we see amendment number 1, and on the right, we see amendment number 2. Okay, so there's a bunch of changes. I'm not going to go over every single diff, but I'm going to go over what I think are the important ones. So they added, so around line 180, they added that they are a Texas limited liability company, Hudspeth Operating LLC, and they've added a particular sentence. In addition, we may consider strategic options, including partnering with or the possible sale of any or all of our assets to third parties. Okay, let me repeat that. In addition, we may consider strategic options, including partnering with or the possible sale of any or all of our assets to third parties. Okay, so that's now on the table. So we actually have 3 options here, right? You know, they can partner with a third party, meaning they can partner with a large oil producer such as Exxon, ConocoPhillips, you know, who knows, Occidental Petroleum. There's a list. It's a very short list because there are only a few major companies that can afford this. So they can partner with them to actually get the oil out of the ground. They can sell it to, a major oil producer, or they can sell a portion of it to a major oil producer. So all 3 options are on the table. Okay, so that's good to know. They updated some dates from September 6th to October 5th, and they also updated the MDA and table of contents. But interestingly enough, they said, so previously they were talking about, what were they talking about? They were talking about future plans to develop and production, and this is now changed about future plans for development and production and other strategic options. So they're leaving all options on the table here, which is good. There's a small a small typo that they fixed, like for instance, the word ration is really meant to be the ratio of 6 MCF to 1 barrel of oil. So instead of ration of 6, it's meant to be a ratio. Not a big deal. And again, they talk about strategic options, including partnering with a possible sale of any or all of the oil assets. So good to know. Okay. There is also a change to what is considered to be an emerging growth company status. Okay. They're aiming and shooting for emergency growth company status. Apparently, originally they thought that meant that they needed to have 1.07 billion in annual revenues or less. Turns out now it's 1.235 billion. So again, updated information that probably comes from the SEC that says, hey, look, emerging growth used to be 1.07, it's now 1.235. And let's see. And the SEC also provided additional information that if the annual revenue needs to be less than 100 million. Well, that is the case for metamaterials completely, and the case for the next Bridge Hydrocarbons right now. But if they sell their assets, that revenue is going to immediately jump. Let's see. And this is the other interesting thing. Previously, they were saying that they will not issue any physical stock certificates. The SEC basically told them, hey, if someone's going to request a stock certificate, you got to issue it. So they will issue stock certificates upon request. Okay. So if you request it, they will actually issue it. Let's see. So here they have some updated wording about operating in a concentrated geographic area and the fact that they are in one concentrated geographic area. And they talk about the strategic options. So this part has been added. So as you can see previously on the left, the form S1 says they go into immediately talking about geographic options, but they have a new section here that there can be no assurance that our financing strategy or strategic alternatives will result in a transaction satisfactory to the holders of our common stock. And they go into the details of what that other strategy might be. They say, after the spinoff, we may consider various strategic alternatives, including partnering with third parties, potential sale of some or all of our assets, a merger transaction, potential financing alternatives. There's a whole bunch of things they could do. Even if a partnering transaction, sale, merger, or financing transaction were to be consummated, it may not return any value to the holders of our common stock. Regardless of whether we execute a partnership, sale, merger, or financing transactions, the adverse pressures negatively impacting our business that we have been or are currently experiencing may continue or intensify, including the risk that we may not be able to continue as a going concern. So basically, they're saying they may do stuff with with somebody else, like Occidental Petroleum or something like that, and you may or may not be happy with it. Okay. That basically just means that they're leaving their options open for whatever they want to do, and that you'll be trusting them, and that you'll be basically trusting management, right? And if you don't like management, you can always elect a new board or and have, throw the old management out, get new management in. That's the right of every single shareholder. They're just saying that, management is keeping all options on the table, so they're not going to restrict themselves in any way, shape, or form. Good to know. Okay. Now, this is interesting. This is something brand new that we had not seen before. There's a whole bunch of green on the right side, and they talk about stock symbol MMTLP, which they had not done before. And this is so new and interesting, I happened to tweet about it. And I said, next Bridge Hydrocarbons S1 Amendment 2 mentions MMTLP. If any investors have sold shares of MMTLP short, they may feel compelled to cover relatively low supply of MMTLP shares available. MMTL share price may rise significantly. That's basically what my tweet was, and it was a gist of what was going on here. But let me go over the whole thing, because it's important. The price per share of of Meta's Series A preferred stock traded on the over-the-counter OTC market under the symbol MMTLP and may not accurately reflect the value of a share of our common stock that you will receive in the distribution. Before the distribution, Meta's Series A preferred stock was traded on the OTC market under the trading symbol MMTLP. Although such shares of MMTLP were not eligible for broker quotations, the OTC market does not constitute an established stock exchange, and as a result, the historical trading prices for the shares of MMTLP may not be a reliable benchmark on which to determine the value of the shares of our common stock you will receive in the distribution. That is a big deal. Okay. Previously, they had not mentioned MMTLP at all because they didn't want to have any liabilities with MMTLP or anything, and the nature of that stock symbol MMTLP. I believe that the SEC probably told them, hey, look, your Series A preferred shares are trading under the stock symbol MMTLP, and if you don't mention it, we're not going to let you go ahead with this S1. So, in the light of proper disclosure, they are mentioning it, and they are telling you exactly what's going on with MMTLP. They did not intend it for it to be traded. The over-the-counter market is, it does not constitute an established stock exchange, and the prices that you see for MMTLP may not be a reliable benchmark on which to determine the value of the shares of our common stock you will receive in the distribution. It could be, I did a calculation in the other videos. You can check it out. I believe it will be significantly higher because I believe there's 3.2 billion barrels of oil. I believe this is what this is saying, okay? Anyway, additionally, securities of certain companies have recently experienced significant and extreme volatility in stock price due to short sellers of shares of securities, and that is known as a short squeeze. Okay, let me start that again. Additionally, securities of certain companies have recently experienced significant and extreme volatility in stock price due to short sellers of shares of securities, known as a short squeeze. These short squeezes have caused extreme volatility in both the stock price of those companies and in the market, have led those companies' securities to trade at a significantly inflated price per share that is disconnected from the underlying value of the company. Okay? Basically, when a short squeeze happens, the price goes crazy, and that price may not reflect the value of the company. It may be significantly higher than the value of the company. Okay. In particular, if any investors have sold shares of MMTLP short, then in connection with the distribution, such investors may feel compelled to buy shares of MMTLP to cover such sales before the distribution. Okay. If this were to occur, given the potential high demand from buyers with a relatively low supply of MMTLP shares available for sale on the OTC market, the MMTLP price per share, as shown on the OTC market, may rise significantly, but may not be representative of the value of the underlying shares of our common stock that you will receive in the distribution. Meaning the stock price could go freaking bonkers. Okay. It could rise to $100. It could rise to more than $100. It could rise to who knows how high it could rise to, and that may be more than the representative value of the underlying shares of the common stock that you would receive. It's possible. They're not saying it will. They're saying it's possible. If the shorts get squeezed, this thing could go nutsoid. That's basically what they're saying. Okay. Next, they talk about the transfer agent, American Stock Trust Company LLC, which is the transfer agent, and then they're basically just replacing the word transfer agent with American Stock Company or whatever. So they're going back and forth whether or not they're using American Stock Company as a transfer agent. But they did add that you or your bank, broker, or other nominee may request the transfer agent issue to you a physical stock certificate representing your shares of common stock. So you can now request a physical share if you so desire. I will not be doing that. Anyway, let's see. And then they talk about, Also, here's an interesting point. Line 1274 on the amendment number 1 and the corresponding line 1277 on amendment number 2. I had a question about this that some people talked to me about. Originally, in the amendment number 1, they said, if you sell any of your shares of Series A preferred stock on or before the distribution date, you will not receive any shares of common stock. Some people thought if you sell one share and you had 1,000 shares, that you would not receive any distribution. I said that is clearly incorrect. So I believe what they've done is they've clarified that statement in amendment number 2. If you sell shares of Series A preferred stock on or before the distribution date, you will not be entitled to receive the shares of common stock in the distribution in respect of such shares of Series A preferred stock sold. So if you had 100 shares and you sell one share, you will not receive the dividend for that one share, but you'll receive the dividend for the 99 shares. Okay? We expect all trading of shares of Series A preferred stock to be suspended as of the distribution date, meaning that will not be traded after the distribution date. It's all going to be the new stuff. Okay? That's just the way it is. So thank you, thank you, Metamaterials, for clarifying that. I clarified it in my video, earlier, but it's very good to hear that you clarified that. And I clarified that as a question to someone who happened to ask a question or something along the way. I forget. I think I may have clarified it in a tweet, possibly. I forget. But anyway, the question was asked to me, I remember, and I answered as best as I could. And Metamaterials in the amendment number 2 seems to say the same thing. And then they have some other things before a separation. Before the separation with Meta, they intend to enter into a distribution agreement. Turns out that they already entered into the distribution agreement. The things that they intended to do, they have done already. So that's going on there. And capitalization. This is interesting. On page 36, they have there's a bunch of changes that change to certain numbers. So it's not easy to see on a diff that works on text. So I put the actual area in question that changed on the left, and on the left in terms of the S1, and what's on the right in terms of the S1 amendment number 2. So, as we can see, what happened is that the word on the left, long-term debt, which was in the S1 amendment number 1, has now changed to short-term debt. So I guess that long-term debt has now become short-term. Also, the pro forma adjustments from distributions, which was about 20.9 million, has now become 21.99 million or so, about $1 million more. Apart from that, it's looking pretty much the same. Okay, total capitalization, etc. So the numbers there are looking pretty much close to each other apart from that. Thing to note. Okay. Here they go on about who they are in terms of they may consider strategic options. So they're keeping their, they're keeping that stuff in, on the books. And this is really interesting. I don't know why this happened, but apparently they did. So on page 39 at the bottom, they, where they say during the fiscal years ended December 31st, 2021 and 2020, and for the quarter ended June 30th, 2022, we drilled development and exploratory wells as set forth in the table below. And they say that they drilled as set forth in the table below on the new one, on the amendment number 2. But it looks like they had a lot more details in amendment number 1 of the development wells and all that than in amendment number 2. It looks like there's some of that details have gone away. So, interesting. I think all the information is still there in terms of the number of wells, because they've got productive wells and oil, which they split between oil wells and gas wells and test wells and wells for saltwater disposal and all this other stuff. So I think if you add them all up, the numbers will be the same. But it's interesting that that particular set of tables has now changed. Okay, so we now know, however, if you would check my last video, that they are drilling 4 more test wells, and the areas for those test wells are noted. And that's basically it. That's all that I have to say. Let me see. Anything else? That's it. Yeah, that is the last thing that I have to say. So therefore, I just wanted to say thank you for watching this video. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This information is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. This is my first cut look at this. Again, I haven't had too much time to look at it, but this is what my first cut feelings are. I have noted that Terry Yonker has made a video about this already. Thank you, Terry. Check out his video. And I'm sure everyone else will be making videos about, what their take on the S1A amendment number 2 is. In particular, I myself am waiting to hear what everyone has to say, right? So in particular, I'm waiting to hear what, of course, Uncle Smokey has to say. He really goes into in-depth details. Check out his video when it comes out. And of course, Roller Pigeons, right? I'm sure she's going to be talking about something that's going to be very interesting. It's always good to hear a multitude of impressions from a multitude of different people, and then you can take that all into account. Ollie, I'm sure, is going to have an S1A. Ollie from Trading Secrets is probably going to have an S1A2 video, and check out his video as well too. He's been doing a great job keeping timely and informative updates. So with that, thank you for watching this video. And goodbye. And I'll probably make another one about, a second impression about this, at some point after I've had time to digest the whole thing. Talk to you later. Goodbye.